yields back. At this time, we're going to recognize Mr. Lucas from the wonderful state of Oklahoma.
Thank you, and I thank the chairman and the ranking member. And being a long-serving member of this committee, I've worked on these issues for a long time, and coming from a very small community in rural western Oklahoma, I've seen the challenges, not personally for the last century, but I've observed the results of the challenges of the last century in my home community. In 1930, we had 14,000 residents in Roger Mills County. As we slid into the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, contrary to the belief of my children, I was not personally there at the time, but my parents and grandparents were there. And with changing agricultural patterns and economic decisions made unwisely perhaps by Congresses and presidents of the time, we now have made our way back to 3,400 warm bodies from that 14,000 we had in 1930. And my home community, approximately 800 people, but I've not looked at the obituaries this morning online, being a slightly older community. So we face all the challenges that we're discussing here today. And sometimes it's really difficult when you get to a certain critical mass on population and economic activity to turn things around. But that's what the rural development programs are all about, and why we have worked so diligently on this committee for a long time to try and drive that in the correct direction. Ms. Forbes, your testimony underscores that rural development often serves as the linchpin for transformative rural development, and I'd like to focus on that as a point this morning. From your perspective, why is it so vital? And sometimes we need to reinforce these points in committee, since we are the bellwether to describe to our colleagues across the body what matters. Why is it so vital that an agency like rural development, one that's set up to support those unique needs of rural America, is willing to treat rural regions as emerging markets?
Thank you for the question. When you think about rural, I want you to think about scarcity. You've touched on it a little bit in the reduction of your county. So every time that your community at one point would have had $14,000 or 14,000 residents to help defray the cost of a new water system, now they have 3,400.
Exactly.
And so you have to spread that cost out, and the cost of what that would have been years and years ago versus what it is now and how much it has grown through the years. That's just one example. When you're looking at rural, trying to get from one farm to the next, there's miles and miles of whether that's broadband, whether that's infrastructure for water and sewer, any of those kinds of things. And there's just not the people along that route to pay for those. So absent a federal investment, that doesn't get done.
Absolutely. My great aunt and uncle, whose farm I live on now, he came there in 1912. They got married in 1914. The little community of Strong City, 8 miles down the Wild Horse Creek, became a public power community in 1912. So from the time they were married in 1914 until the Rural Electric, at the conclusion of the Second World War, was able to string wires to our part of the country, every evening they could see the electric lights 8 miles away as they lit their coal oil lamp. But sometimes those differences haven't changed. In a world of broadband, where that is one of the most important things to business in our younger generation, or anyone who's connected to the world, Linda and I still on that 1965 copper wire get 5 bits down and 5 megabytes up. It's a challenge. Ms. Forbes, continuing with you, I'd like to discuss the Rural Business Investment Program for a moment. Oklahoma has a new Rural Business Investment Company and Business Accelerator Program through the Oklahoma Farm Bureau, which is providing much needed capital investment to my constituents back home. In your opinion, how are BRIC programs filling the gap for rural industry that other capital organizations may be unable to provide?
So one of the things I like about the rural development is that you do fill a lot of gaps that other federal programs don't. For instance, you can do things that we can't help secure financing for CDBG. They have a niche. The SRF program has a niche. But the thing that this rural development program has a niche for is a lot of those other gaps that can't be filled elsewhere. So when you talk about some of the brick and mortar, some of those kinds of things, I can't finance fire halls except for through CDBG, and not all my communities are eligible for CDBG. And so this program and having the access to be able to access these for some of those other gaps is really crucial for rural America.
Absolutely, and as my time runs out, Mr. Chairman, I would simply note I love living on Wild Horse Creek. I don't mind being miles and miles away from my neighbors, but the challenges are greater for those of us in the countryside. Yield back.
Matt?